The European Union has just approved a fresh round of sanctions against Russia. This is its 17th round of sanctions since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The focus this time is on Russia's so-called shadow fleet. Now, this tanker you can see, the Eventin, is believed to be part of Moscow's efforts to evade sanctions, including oil price caps. The ship was discovered adrift off Germany's Baltic coast earlier this year on its way to Egypt. It was carrying oil worth 40 million euros. The ships are often uninsured with murky ownership, and they are considered a security threat as well as an environmental hazard. Let's get more on this from DW correspondent Christine Mhundwa in Brussels. Christine, do we know how these vessels are currently able to evade oil price caps?
So, Anya, these ships, these vessels have been identified as engaging in this sort of shady practice where they will transmit false data. They are known to turn off their transponders so as to become invisible, and then engage in this activity known as sort of ship-to-ship transfer out at sea. That is, they transfer the barrels they have on board to other ships. And the idea here is to conceal the real origin, the true origin of these barrels, which are assumed to be Russian oil. And the reason for this is Russian oil is currently capped at $60 per barrel. And so if Russia is able to avoid people knowing that the oil that it's selling out into the world is coming from Russia, then it can effectively earn more. And the idea really is to clamp down on these ships. And the EU has now targeted 200 others. 150 other ships have currently been blacklisted. The idea is to restrict the activities of these vessels so that you can limit how much Russia is able to evade this price cap and get more revenues to finance its war in Ukraine. So that is the idea of what the EU is trying to do with this latest round of targeting these 200 vessels.
And Christine, in terms of sanctions, I mean, is this a significant step, or would you say it is sort of more symbolic?
Anya, this is not the strongest package of sanctions that the European Union has put forward to date, certainly when compared to previous packages. But such is the case now, where it is becoming more difficult for the European Union to agree on what to target, where you can get that sort of unanimity. And I'm not just talking about the Hungarian veto that we've been reporting so much about, where Hungary has been blocking a number of the intended measures. But you're getting a sense now that the bigger that the EU wants to go, the bigger the potential of backlash on EU member states. So take, for example, the issue of frozen assets, right? There are some member states who say confiscate those assets. That would be a real big blow. But then, of course, the repercussions of that are feared by member states like Belgium, who are opposed to that. So the sense is that it is getting more difficult to agree to these measures on the part of the European Union. But this is by no means symbolic, in the sense that if you're able to clamp down on Russia being able to evade the measures that are in place, then these measures will have the intended effect, that they will be devastating and somehow limit Russia's ability to be able to continue its aggression.
And Christine, does any of this connect to the possible meeting we might be seeing in Turkey between Ukrainian President Zelensky and Russia's Vladimir Putin?
Certainly, Anya. I mean, on the part of the European Union, the pressure has been on Moscow to agree to a 30-day land, air and sea ceasefire to sort of make way for talks about territory and security guarantees for Ukraine. In the lack of progress on the diplomatic front, there have been growing calls within the European Union that more pressure needs to be put on Moscow. So you've heard Berlin, Paris, and a number of other capitals saying we need to tighten the measures. We need to send a signal that we're willing to go further with these sanctions so as to force the Russians to come to the negotiating table. All of that would be aimed at, for example, persuading or convincing the Russian president to be present for those talks that are intended to be held in Turkey in the coming days. So this is where the European Union is right now, trying to force Russia's hand into agreeing to some kind of a ceasefire so that talks can resume, essentially, to reach some kind of a diplomatic end to this. In the absence of that, the EU feels it needs to be upping the ante in terms of these restrictive sanctions and other measures.
Christine Mhundwa reporting from Brussels. Christine, thank you.